It'll take them a little bit to hear that. Okay. So, Bleed 2 is a platforming game, so a couple of things you have to watch out for. So, you play as Rin. Rin is allowed to have 3 dashes at any given time. So while you're in the air, she can dash 3 times, and then you have to land to regain all of your dashes. So you'll notice that when they're dashing, their goal is to end the 3rd dash, usually at an angle going down towards the ground to reset that dashing ability. The sound we will be using for today will be on Alta screen. Quote is using the Steam stream, so it is going to be a little bit delayed, so it may seem a little bit choppy here and there. Neither of them getting a perfect staircase where you get up with all 3 dashes to land directly on top. They're going to be fighting their first encounter, their first boss here, Roly Poly Oly. He's pretty simple. Usually with a good slowdown time, you can kill him in a single transition. So, Bleed 2, if you're not familiar, has a lot of bosses. It's basically boss rush with some platforming in between. So Alta getting a reflectable bullet, so any bullet that you see on the screen, or even if the enemy turns a certain color. So Rin is she uses purple for her identifier. So if there's any kind of bullet, or if the boss becomes purple, then that player can knock back the bullet and or the boss. Quote getting an unlucky transition there. So sometimes the boss will go off screen, which means you can't do any damage to them, so that is unfortunate. So RNG does play a role in this, but not too much of a role. Alta switching to just his katana to be able to get some massive hits on there, just so he doesn't have to wait for the bullets to collide. So both players very, very close together. Quote stream is probably about maybe 2 seconds behind. So even though it looks like he's slightly behind, he's actually really close. So Alta gonna be fighting his first actual boss here, the Mirror Core. So Milker there just turned purple, allowing him to get the deflect damage. So all those purple streams are really good to hit, to do deflects on. You cannot deflect orange bullets. Ooh, Alta unfortunately missing some of those, but he does get a dash in, does hit him, gets the kill. Quote, not far behind, does get a deflect there as well. So, quote, not too far behind, he is opting to be closer, so when he gets the deflect, he's also slashing the boss, allowing him to get both the slash damage and the deflect damage. Heading over to stage 2. So, this one here, you really have to watch how you do your pathing, or else right there, you can see Alta lost a little bit of time. Bosses tend not to spawn unless you kill all the enemies on the screen. So if you accidentally leave that cat alive, it actually prevents you from spawning the boss. So it's very, very good that you kill that boss as soon as possible, all the enemies on the screen as soon as possible. Thank you, Dan. Yes, we all love Bleed 2. It is one of our favorite games. Looks like we are having some difficulties with Quote here, so let me just go ahead and make sure that he knows that his stream went down. We're going to keep watching Alta for right now. So Alta going to be heading over to, so he knocked out Kitty Chopper. He'll be fighting Whale Core, which is not what you expect it to be. It is actually a giant car, and the driver is your rival. So your goal in the game, kind of strange. You're trying to beat all of these bosses and stuff like that. In the first game, you have like all these other heroes that are like monsters, and then your rival takes credit from you. But in the second game, there's a new challenger that comes into town, Valentine, and so your goal is to kind of go and defeat her. So you and the rival still having your actual rivalry. You'll see the game comes full circle later on. So Alta here meeting Valentine for the first time. I'll say I would love to see that that Rin and Soul Calibur. So Alta's going to be showing how to fight Valentine. So Valentine has a different attack each time, and your goal is to make sure that Valentine does not hit the vehicle. So unfortunately, Valentine did hit the vehicle, being so that Alta does have to do another cycle. So the purple car deflects are kind of challenging. So every time that you do deflect, then the rival will shoot a couple rockets out, knocks out Valentine's shield, allowing you to get some damage in. The timing can be difficult. Really do love that Rin that you made there. Looks really nice. So, Alta just going to go ahead and start the next level. We will be working to get Quote's stream back online. We're seeing what we can do. So Alta will be fighting the next boss. So you have Red Sprite, which is a girl you see there firing things, and then the blue jets. So we'll be coming across the next boss. So the boss that Alta will be fighting in a little bit here is actually one of the more challenging bosses, especially if you play on very hard. So we're playing on the normal difficulty currently. So this is Ninja. Ninja is extremely challenging if you don't understand the different movesets he has and all that. You'll see a couple here. On very hard, you'll just see him just flying around the screen. It's a little side scroll here, just kind of waiting, just getting bombarded by some bullets. So Alta about to fight the last boss here. Did take a little damage there. So this is Rex Rocket, also known as the Rocket Man. So, Rex Rocket, he shoots different types of rockets. So the large ones like that, you can deflect. Unfortunately, since it is an orange rocket, you cannot deflect it. And when it does hit the edge of the screen, it explodes and shoots bullets towards you. He also has right there like a Gatling gun, which you can deflect, but there's not a lot of bullets. Alta not ending at the far bottom, so does lose about maybe a second there. We're gonna try to get Quote back up and running here. Alright, we got Quote back up and running now. So they are pretty close together. Alright, so Alta now actually entering the only side scroller in the game. So the sky scroller here is actually rather tricky. So you have to fight the enemies and destroy those orbs to clear out the walls. But if you do get hit, it actually stops the screen from scrolling and it slows it back down to its base speed. So one of the biggest time losses you can do, even though this is a pretty simple section, if you just accidentally get hit, then you lose a lot of time. So it is quite unfortunate, but hopefully that both the players get through here without any issues. Alta getting through, no worries. So Quote now going to try to traverse this tricky little area. Alta going to be heading to his next boss. So the boss they just fight was the Chaff Spammer, but now we're going to be fighting the Robos. So, this is Robo Guppy. So Guppy is actually the first boss that you fight in the first Bleed game. So he was kind of brought back. So this is just a nice little boss rush, a little gauntlet here. So we're going to be fighting a couple different bosses back to back to back. So taking a damage here will persist through the next boss. Next we have Gibby and Stu. Quote going to go and be starting his Guppy. So Gibby and Stu here, they both share the same life bar. So even though he's doing damage to each one a little bit different, they just share the entire life bar. So you could just hit one the entire time and kill them. Deflect there, unfortunately not available since they were facing the wrong direction, but not a big deal. Quote defeating his Guppy, gonna be moving on to Gibby and Stu. Alta knocking out his Gibby and Stu, and we're heading on to White. So White is a little bit tricky on New Game. So he has a shield that deflects all the bullets. And later on, if you are playing on freestyle where you have options like other weapons available, then you can really get through it. Also switching to the katana, which can pierce through that, but he has to be really close, which allows you to get hit a lot more often. So you kind of have to be careful of that. Getting a nice deflect there. It is kind of strange though. Getting a deflect on White can actually be can actually slow you down just because you get less shots in, just because it spins his shield around, preventing any damage from getting through. Alta knocking out his White, and Quote moving on to his White. And the last of the boss rush here is Robo Bunny. So all of the bosses that you've seen here in just this one level, they are actually all from Bleed 1. Quote getting a nice deflect there and getting through the rockets, not taking any damage. So dying in this game mode, so we are doing story. So dying in story mode actually isn't that big of a deal. When you die in the story, all that happens is you have to reset on the screen you're on. So if you're fighting all of the Robos and you die, you actually just reset on that boss. Cole gonna try to wrap up his bunny here. Alta gonna be starting Warship. Warship is probably one of the worst levels, especially for new players to get through. This spot right here, the elevators we call it, it's just the absolute worst. He'll be fighting his segment slider next. Quote knocking out his level, no issues, did not die. He'll be moving on to the next level. Also getting some decent RNG there. You really want him to shoot the center ones out, that way you can get some good hits in. So that's not a bad one. You really just want as much time as possible to hit that center eye to get the damage in. Good deflect from Alta. Ooh, bad RNG. Does not get a whole lot of hits in here, so that's unfortunate. On freestyle, you can actually beat it in just like 2 cycles. Ooh, getting really close. Alta should be able to knock it out here. So he is kind of low, so we'll have to see if he's going to go for a suicide to reset his health bar since he's starting a new area, or if he's just going to try to risk it and try to get through the end. Looks like he's going to try to risk it. So by dying here, he will start all the way back at the beginning. Now he's down to 1 health, so taking 1 hit will reset him, which will move him a lot closer to Quote. Does get through it, so let's see if he takes a death here to see if he resets. Yeah, he's just going to go for... Oh. Yeah, go for a quick death, just so he can reset the boss here with a full HP bar. Doesn't want to risk the fact that he could die and just have to do the whole fight over again. Quote also not getting any really good RNG here. That's a decent one, but you want as many times to shoot him at him as possible. So not a bad run. As long as he gets 1 decent cycle here. Ooh, not great. As long as this next one allows him to get some damage in. And knocks it out. Alta going to the second part of the Nemesis core. So the Nemesis core has just a bunch of shields on the edges. So if you're able to knock those out with rockets, which you unlock in freestyle, and then you're able to knock this boss out really fast. But unfortunately on New Game, you have to wait to deflect his own bullets, his own rockets and stuff, just to do any damage to him. Quote having a slight issue here, but let's see if he can resolve that quickly. Alta getting a nice deflect there. Quote is now back up and running. Quote getting some serious damage in here, but he is kind of low, and oh, he does get the deflects, opening the walls up a little bit for him. So he is going to be starting part 2. So part 2 can take a little bit, depending on the RNG you get. Taking damage here shouldn't be that big of a problem, as long as you don't get super low. After the boss fight here for Quote, he probably will need a reset. We'll see if he does or not. Alta only able to get 1 bomb, unfortunately, in there. Does clear out a good chunk of his shields, so as long as he doesn't get hit here, he might be able to get through this fight. Alta going to be going through the last part of the warship here. There are some pretty tricky spots here, so he's got to be careful. You can take a lot of damage here, so hopefully he gets through it without any problems. Quote only able to get 1 rocket. Does wipe out a really good chunk there, actually, so he might be able to knock down this cycle, and he does. Alta going to be fighting Anti-Battalion here. This is going to be the last fight for this level, then moving on to the last 2. Oh, that's his name. So let's see if Quote can knock this out. He only has 2 hits and then he will die. So hopefully he can get through this without getting hit twice. If he doesn't get hit twice, he does have to start this section over again. Alta getting a Pac-Man there, not a one that it is ideal to get, but he did not get a Pac-Man deflect. So but Anti-Battalion has a lot of different RNG stuff. He's doing Make It Rain here. Make It Rain not really good for damage, but Saw really good for damage, but no deflect at the end. He's only 1 cycle out. Let's see if Quote's going to take an early death here. Unfortunately, Anti-Battalion not very kind when it comes to quick deaths. Looks like he's going to go for it, so he got a bullet here. Let's see if he can knock him all away. Gets all deflects and gets some shots in, so that's some good damage. Next up is the Saw. Saw can be tricky if those bullets come up and hit you. The little blobs there. Gets a Pac-Man. Let's see if it gets a good deflect. As long as it turns purple. It does. As long as it gets some damage in right there. Slash. Nice. So, Quote getting some really good RNG. Does get a Make It Rain, unfortunately. Not that great. Now the Pac-Man here would be great. It is a Saw, but that's fine. Does not take the hit, so even with 1 HP, completes the boss. Able to get through that. Alta going to be starting Valentine. Valentine has 4 phases. The phases aren't that tricky, but each of them are a little bit different from the other ones. Alta knocking out Valentine A. He's going to be hurting himself here. He's going to go for a Valentine skip a little bit later. Basically, there's a little cutscene that occurs, and he's just going to try to skip that out by suiciding. Oh, Saw Blade's absolutely perfect. If you can get Pac-Man and Saw Blades, it's just fantastic. So taking a little bit of damage on Valentine actually isn't that bad, as long as you don't really lose any damage. Usually we try to hurt ourselves by falling off the map in between phases, just so we don't lose any DPS. I do not know if Quote's going to go for any Valentine skips here. We'll see. Keeping his health full, so I'm not sure if he will go for it. Quote, not too far behind. He does have to get some decent RNG here. Some projectiles that Valentine does shoot, you cannot shoot through, which does stop your DPS, like the last 2 attacks that Quote has gotten. So that is not great. Alta going for the skip here. As long as she has a shield, he got the skip, and he did. If you do miss that, you have to redo the entire last phase, which is quite awful. So, Alta's going to go for another skip here. So you have to taunt, and if you taunt at the perfect time, she'll actually get re-hit again, allowing you to just keep skipping phases. And if you can do this, I think he got it here, as long as he gets enough damage in. And nails it. So Alta getting all of them, allowing for the full skip of the last phase, basically. Quote getting pretty close to being able to do death skip, but unfortunately his health is a little bit too high. He can still probably go for it, but it'll be kind of tricky. He is going to be going for it. So he needs to do it at a perfect time here, and when he dies, she needs to come back with a shield. And she does. Awesome. So he skips that little cutscene there. So Quote just needs to get some good taunts here, and hopefully he can land them all. If he lands all of them, then he doesn't have to worry about it. Ooh, goes a little bit too early for that taunt. Unfortunately, not going to be able to land it, so he will have to do one more cycle. Alta going to go and start on the final level. So we do have 5 more bosses in the final level. Quote unfortunately missing another taunt, so it does have to go through another cycle here. Alta knocking out Mantis. So he'll be moving on to Whale Core, the return of Whale Core. So this section here is actually kind of tricky. So you got dig hit there. Oh, does not hit a second time, so that's really nice. That laser normally gets a lot of players. So Whale Core is probably one of the bosses that's really annoying. Just the fact that he goes off screen all the time, which makes you get no damage in. So you do have deflex and all that from the rockets, but you really have to hope that you get some decent RNG on that. So Whale Core coming back. Let's see if he gets a good deflex. He does get 1. Oh, and he goes all the way up for the second one, and unfortunately just barely doesn't get the last hit in. So now he has to wait for him to return. Gets the kill there. Quote over on Mantis. Let's see if he gets any good deflex. So one of the things you really have to watch out for is just seeing what kind of deflex you do get. Up, he is able to get this deflect. Nails it. Unfortunately, a little bit of lag there, so we can't see what happens. Also getting 1 deflect over here on his Crawling Core. Sorry, Spider Core. Crawling Core is next. Ooh, Quote dodging the laser as well. Gets through Mantis with only 1 hit on him. Quote unfortunately not able to get any of the deflex there. Alta gonna be starting his second to last boss, the Crawling Core. Quote not too far behind. Ooh, does not get that deflect, but does get that one. So the 3 deflects that he was able to get there, he did get 2 of the 3, so that was good. He might be able to knock it out in this cycle if he gets enough deflex. Unfortunately does not get enough deflex, but he does make it. Alta gonna get deflect here on Crawling Core. Alta getting a pretty nice crawling core there. He's moving on to the rival, the final boss. Quote not opting to get any of the deflects there. So, for the rival, you really want to see as many just moves where he stands still, like the rocket there. Really good, just full damage. You do not want him to shoot, to pull out his katana. And a good deflect there. Nice little ping pong from on the Alta side. Rockets are kind of annoying since the rockets get blow up when you shoot them, blow up, so you don't get any damage on the boss. Alta not getting any katanas right now. Really, really good RNG for him. Getting tons and tons of missiles. Wow, Alta not getting a single katana. Oop, wrong button. 2603 for Alta there. Quote gonna go into his rival. So let's just see how he does. Hopefully get some decent RNG as well. Fortunately, does get a katana like right off the bat. Gets a pistol and a dive kick. Does land the dive kick. Good stun. Get a ping pong. Unfortunately, you can't see what happens out of that ping pong. Another dive kick. Alright, quote's gonna go and wrap up real quick. We'll take a small break and we'll be right back.